wants to go for a picnic?" shouted Daddy Pig. "Me," said Peppa. "And me," said George. "I thought you might say yes," said Daddy Pig. "The camper van is packed and ready to go." "I'll just lock up," said Mummy Pig, and she went in the house while Daddy got Peppa and George in the van. All ready, off they went. "Are we there yet?" said George. "George, we've only just left the house," said Daddy Pig. Actually, it didn't take them long to get to their favourite picnic spot. Peppa and George rushed down to the lake to see if they could see any jumping fish. "I saw one," said Peppa, and they rushed back to tell Mummy and Daddy had started getting the picnic table out. "Food will be ready soon," said Daddy, "so don't go too far." They ran off towards the lake again. Peppa watched the lake carefully, and this time 2 fish jumped out. "Picnic's ready," shouted Daddy. Peppa ran back. She was hungry. "Where's George?" said Mummy. They all looked around for him. "There he is," said Peppa. George was at the top of a tree. "George, come down," shouted Daddy. "I can't," said George. "I'm stuck." A little distance away, a periscope was scanning the area and fixed its gaze on George. "There's a pig in trouble," said Ryder. "Seems to be stuck up a tree." This was the Paw Patrol lookout, always on standby to carry out a rescue. "Marshall, this one's for you and your ladder." Marshall slid down the chute and got into his fire truck. He sped towards the picnic spot. It didn't take him long to arrive. "Marshall here to help," said Marshall. "Thank you," said Daddy Pig. "George is stuck." "Don't worry, I'll soon have him down," said Marshall. He got his truck in position and started raising the ladder. George was now able to reach the ladder and, relieved, managed to climb down. "Thank you," said George. "I won't climb trees again." Daddy Pig thanked Marshall. He told him they were just about to eat and would he like to join them. He agreed and they sat around the table. Mummy Pig had found a big juicy bone for Marshall. George loved his new music player he got for Christmas. He was always dancing to his very loud music. "George, would you please turn down the music? It's giving me a headache," shouted Mummy Pig. "OK, sure," said George as he carried on dancing. It wasn't just Mummy Pig that was getting annoyed with the music, but everyone in the village. His music was so loud he couldn't hear the angry crowd outside his house. They even knocked on his door, but he still couldn't hear them. "Right, something needs to be done," said Queen Elsa. "He needs to learn a lesson. Let's call in the superheroes. They'll know what to do." Soon, the superheroes arrived at the house. "We have a plan," they said. "How about we move his house to teach him a lesson?" So Iron Man got ready to lift the house. "What's happening?" cried a panicking George, quickly turning off his music. And soon the house was sinking underwater. Then all of a sudden Iron Man appeared. "George, do you know why we have done this?" "It's because everyone in the village is annoyed with your loud music. So we moved your house away." "Just because you like your music loud doesn't mean everyone else likes it. Do you understand?" I do. I will never play music loud again," said George. "George, it's all right to play loud music, but only for a short time, otherwise people will get annoyed. Have you learnt your lesson?" "Yes, I have." "That's good," said Iron Man. And with that, the house was moved back to the village, and everything returned to the way it used to be. Peppa, George and Zoe were going for a picnic in their camper van. Mummy and Daddy Pig were busy today, so Kitty was driving. They all got in and off they drove. This seems like a good spot, said Kitty. I'm hungry, said George. Let's eat. They all helped get the table and chairs out of the camper van. Where's George? Said Zoe. George had found the food, but the hamper was too heavy for him. Peppa took the hamper and brought it to the table. I'm really hungry now, said George. Peppa was just about to get the food out when they heard a train in the distance. Look, said Zoe. It's Thomas, Annie and Clarabelle. They all watched as Thomas went past. Come on, said George, the food. But they then heard another train. This time it was the Hello Kitty train, and on board was their friend Susie. They all waved. The food was now on the table, but at that precise moment it started to pour with rain. I don't mind wet food, said George, but the girls started packing it all away. George had a few problems with the table, but they still got everything packed away. What shall we do now? Said George. I really am very hungry. Kitty said she knew somewhere where they could eat, and they drove off in the rain. When they reached the cafe, they all saw the cakes in the window. Wow! George was out first, but they all quickly followed. Inside, in the dry, they ordered a plate of the biggest cupcakes you've ever seen. They all helped themselves, and George ate his in one gulp. What a greedy pig you are, George, said Peppa. They all finished their cakes and went outside. It had stopped raining by now, and the cafe was next to a park. Let's go on the slide, said George, and they all followed. The rain had made muddy puddles at the bottom of the slide, and one by one they all landed in them, getting covered in mud. They all agreed it had been a very good day.
Princess Sophia invited some friends round to play. Princess Penelope and Ruby arrived together in the Hello Kitty train. Penelope rang the doorbell, and Sophia invited them in. Soon after, Mummy Pig drove Peppa and George to the palace. "Hello, Peppa and George," said Sophia, and in they went. The palace was fantastic on the inside. "Let's go in the garden," suggested Sophia. "I can show you my animals." So excitedly, they all rushed off. Except George. He could smell something delicious. There was a plate of cookies just left on the table. He climbed up on the chair, then onto the table, and took them. He sat down and ate the entire plateful. Nobody had even noticed as they were all having fun in the garden. Queen Miranda then came in to see if anyone wanted anything. "George, what happened to the plate of cookies?" she asked. "I'm sorry," he muttered. "They looked so delicious I couldn't help myself." "Oh, George, you are naughty. Come on, let's make some more for the girls." After a while, the girls returned from the garden. "Would anyone like an iced bun?" asked Queen Miranda. "I thought we had cookies," said Sophia. "No, we didn't have any cookies, did we, George?" No, he replied. So everyone took a bun. Well, almost everyone. "George, don't you want one?" asked Peppa. No thanks. I'm actually quite full."
Peppa Pig and her family were on their holidays. They were staying in a villa by the beach. "We're going to have a barbecue today," said Daddy Pig, "and we've got some special friends coming over to join us." Peppa and George were excited. They decided to go on their dune buggy while Daddy Pig lit the barbecue. "This is fun," said Peppa. Not too far away, Minnie Mouse and Mickey Mouse were getting ready to catch the Mickey Mouse Express train to take them to the beach. They'd been invited to a barbecue. The train arrived and off they went. When they arrived at the beach, Daddy Pig greeted his friends. Peppa and George came running to see them. "Come and play with us," they said. Daddy Pig told Peppa and George not to go too far away because they were starting to cook the food. Mickey and Minnie went to the water's edge, but nobody noticed George slip away. George was in the dune buggy, but he'd never driven it before and couldn't actually reach the steering wheel. Suddenly there was an almighty splash as the buggy went right into the sea. Everybody looked to see what caused the splash. "George, are you all right?" said Daddy Pig. "Yes," said George, "just a little stuck." Mummy Pig suggested they get Grandad Dog to pull the buggy out, and Daddy Pig went to call him. Grandad Dog had a sleepy garage in a sleepy town and was very pleased to help. It didn't take him long to get there. He backed his truck into position, attached the hook to the buggy and got ready to pull. The buggy moved easily and was soon back on the sand. "Thank you," said George. Daddy and Mummy Pig went to see if George was all right. He promised not to drive the buggy again on his own. Daddy Pig thanked Grandad Dog and asked him if he wanted to join them for some food. He agreed. Daddy Pig gave everyone a burger and they enjoyed the rest of the day on the beach. Peppa, George and their friends were waiting at the station. They were going to the park on the other side of town. Thomas pulled up and they all jumped in. They had been really looking forward to this day. It was a lovely sunny day, although it had rained overnight and there were a few muddy puddles around. Thomas pulled into the station and they all jumped out. Thomas hadn't got any more duties for a while, so he pulled up behind the park. Peppa and her friends ran towards the park. Peppa and George went to the swings. The seat was a bit high for George, so Peppa had to help him on. Susie and Zoe went to the slide first. Danny went on his own to the rather muddy roundabout. He then joined Peppa and George at the zip line. Danny had the first go, and then they took it in turns. Zoe and Susie left the slide and went on the roundabout. They went quite fast for a long time. When Zoe stepped off, she was so giddy she fell over. Susie did the same. When they stood up, they realised they had fallen over in muddy puddles. They all agreed it was time for an ice cream, and they each had a cone with cream on top. Refreshed, George and Peppa went to the slide. Peppa went first, but had only just got to her feet when George came down and knocked her over. They both landed in muddy puddles and were covered in mud. "I'm the only clean one here," said Danny. who then slipped on some mud and fell over. They all laughed, but decided that they should go home and get cleaned up. Thomas arrived, and they all jumped in to start their journey home.
It was a beautiful sunny day. Peppa and her friend Susie were playing outside in the sunshine. "I love your crown, Peppa," said Susie. "May I try it on and pretend that I'm a queen?" she asked. "Of course," answered Peppa. "It will fit you perfectly." She took her crown off and handed it to Susie to try on. Mummy Pig appeared and said to Peppa, "Be careful with your crown, Peppa. It's very precious. You don't want to break or lose it." "Don't worry, Mummy," said Peppa. "I'll look after it." And with that, Mummy Pig disappeared into the castle. Susie took the crown and placed it on her head. "Oh, I feel like a beautiful queen," she smiled. She didn't want to damage it, so she took it off and placed it on the grass beside her. Just then, Zoe, their friend, appeared. "Hello, Zoe," said the two girls. "Would you like to see my new toys?" Peppa asked. "Oh, yes, please," replied Zoe, and the three friends disappeared into the castle. Unfortunately, they'd forgotten about the crown, and it was left outside with no one looking after it. Oh dear, now there's going to be trouble. Look who's coming round the corner. It's Tom Moss, and I'm afraid he's spotted the crown. I hope he won't steal it. Too late, it's already on his funnel. It's going to be difficult getting that back again. Peppa soon realised they'd forgotten about the crown, and the girls raced outside to retrieve it. But oh dear, all they saw was the back of Tom Moss disappearing into the forest. "Oh my, what are we going to do?" sighed Peppa. Just then, who should be chuffing around the corner but Thomas. "Hello, Peppa," he said. "Oh dear, you look sad. Whatever is the matter?" he asked, and the three friends told Thomas all about it. "Peppa, we must retrieve your crown. Hop on board," he requested. So Peppa climbed onto Thomas's truck and off they went. "Be careful, Peppa." Thomas eventually arrived near Tom Moss's lair. "I can see him!" shouted Peppa excitedly. "He's hiding in that tunnel. Let's go after him." "Oh, I'm not so sure now," replied Thomas. "I've heard rumours that he has some scary monsters guarding him. We must be careful, or they could eat us alive." Peppa climbed off Thomas's truck. "Come on, Thomas," she said. "I don't believe in scary monsters." But just then, something jumped out in front of them. "It's only Mike," she smiled. Suddenly, another monster appeared. "Sally," she laughed, "I haven't seen you in ages." Just then, a third monster appeared in front of them.
Boo! Boo!
"Oh, Art," she smiled, "where have you been hiding these days?" "Thomas, these are my friends. They won't hurt anyone. You don't need to be afraid of them." "Sally," she asked, "would you be able to get my crown back for me? Tom Moss has stolen it and he's hiding in that tunnel." "Oh, I'm sorry, Peppa," he answered. "I'm a little afraid of Tom Moss. If I help you, he may prank me. Sorry." "Oh dear," sighed Peppa. "How am I ever going to get my crown back?" she sobbed. Just then, there was a flash of twinkling magical lights, and there stood a very pretty fairy. "I think you are in need of a little fairy magic," she smiled, and blew some fairy dust into the air. The dust swirled around Tom Moss, and then suddenly the crown vanished from his funnel and landed on Peppa's head. "Oh, thank you so much," she said gratefully to the fairy, whose name was Iridessa. "You're very welcome," she smiled. "That Tom Moss is a very naughty engine." And then she vanished into thin air. Quick, Thomas, shouted Peppa. Let's catch Tom Moss. And she climbed back onto Thomas's truck. Tom Moss saw what was happening and made a very speedy getaway. Once again, he was just too quick to be caught. What will he get up to next time?